Sarah went over the plan with Aldous and Garrett's man 3 times before the bell went into the water. Garrett had sent someone after all. A woman named Cross. Quiet. Precise. The kind of person who had spent a career in rooms where the decisions were hard and had gotten very good at being in those rooms. She had arrived by helicopter at 0600 hours with 2 cases of equipment and the full authority of the Office of Naval History and Special Collections behind her, which Sarah had decided to take at face value. Cross had listened to Sarah's plan without interrupting. When Sarah finished, Cross was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The transponder array. You are going to use it to simulate a new contact, something the thing has not encountered before, something that registers as novel on whatever frequency it uses to sense its environment." "Yes," Sarah said. "And while it investigates the array, the crew moves," Cross said. "Yes," Sarah said. "All 3 ships simultaneously. The crews have been briefed through the ROV comm system overnight. They know the signal. They know the timing. They know the route to the surface. They can make it to the surface on their own," Cross said, "from 3,200 feet. Sarah looked at the ROV footage on her monitor, at the figures at the bridge windows, at the hand pressed against the glass. "They have been at 3,200 feet for 81 years, she said. "Whatever it has done to keep them has also preserved them. I think they can make it. I think they have always been able to make it. They just needed the thing to look somewhere else for long enough." Cross looked at the monitor. "How long does the array give us?" she said. "The files say the thing investigated the Soviet wreck in 1987 for 6 hours before it returned," Sarah said. "A genuine wreck. A real new contact. The array will not hold it as long as that." "But the young man said 20 minutes was enough. I'm going to trust that." Cross nodded once. "What do you need from me?" she said. "Every surface vessel you can get," Sarah said. "Every diver, every light in the water. The moment those crews start ascending, I want this ocean lit up from the surface to 200 feet. I want the thing to have a wall of light between it and the surface if it comes back early." Cross picked up her satellite phone. Sarah went to prepare the bell. The descent took 55 minutes. Sarah watched the depth gauge and the sonar and thought about 261 men who had spent 81 years in the cold and the dark waiting for 20 minutes. She thought about the young man in the passageway, those old eyes and that young face. "We have been ready for 81 years. At 3,200 feet, the Harmon appeared in the bell's lights exactly as before. The sonar contact was on the far side of the formation, moving slowly on its circuit. Sarah watched it and timed it, and when it reached the point in its circuit that put maximum distance between it and all 3 ships, she keyed her comms. "Aldous," she said. "Array." On the surface, Aldous activated the transponder array. 4 units deployed, in a pattern 2 miles north of the dead fleet's position. Broadcasting on the frequencies Garrett's files identified as the thing's primary sensory range. A new signal. Strong and clear and coming from a direction the thing had not investigated in 81 years of circling the same 3 ships. Sarah watched the sonar. The contact slowed. Stopped. Then it moved north. Fast and direct the way it had moved toward the ROV in the earlier dive. The way something moves when it has found something new and has decided that new is what it wants right now. It was moving away from the ships. Sarah keyed the comms to the frequency she had been using overnight to communicate with the crews of the dead fleet. "This is Sarah Voss," she said. "The contact is moving. You have your window. All 3 ships. Right now. Move." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sonar screens lit up. Movement inside all 3 hulls. Not the slow, purposeful movement of a crew maintaining their posts. Fast movement, the movement of people who have been waiting 81 years for a signal and have just received it and are moving with everything they have left toward the exits they have known the location of since 1943. Sarah pressed her face to the viewport. The forward hatch of the Harmon opened. And they came out, one by one at first, then in a steady stream. Men in 1943 Navy uniforms emerging from the hatch of the USS Harmon at 3,200 feet and rising, without tanks, without equipment. Rising the way things rise when something that has been holding them down stops holding them down, slowly at first, then faster, their faces turned upward toward a surface they had not seen since November 14, 1943. From the Callaway, the same. From the Brent, the same. 3 streams of men rising from 3 ships in the cold dark of the North Atlantic. 261 men ascending through 3,200 feet of water toward the lights that Cross had put in the ocean above them. Sarah watched them go and did not look away from the viewport. She was looking for the young man. She found him near the end, one of the last ones out of the Harmon hatch. He came through and paused for a moment outside the ship, and Sarah pressed her hand against the viewport the way she had pressed it against the monitor screen 3 days ago when she first saw him do it. He saw her hand. He looked at the bell, at her face behind the glass, and he raised his hand and pressed it flat against the outside of the viewport. For 1 second, they were palm to palm with the glass between them. Then he looked up, at the lights above him, at the surface 3,200 feet away, and he let go of the viewport, and he rose. Sarah, Aldous said. The contact. It has stopped moving north. Sarah pulled her eyes from the ascending crew. She looked at the sonar. The contact had stopped at the array position. It was stationary. Investigating, but not moving further north. How long, she said. Hard to say, Aldous said. It seems uncertain, like it knows something has changed but cannot locate what. Sarah looked at the sonar returns of the 3 ships below her. Empty, now. All 3 of them, for the first time since November 14, 1943, the USS Harmon and the USS Callaway and the USS Brent were empty ships on the ocean floor with no one left aboard to watch over them. Pull us up, she said. Right now. The bell rose. At 1,400 feet, Sarah saw the lights Cross had put in the water, a wall of them stretching across the ocean below the surface vessels, bright and steady, a boundary between the deep and the surface. And moving through those lights, ascending through the brightness, 261 men, coming up from the bottom of the North Atlantic after 81 years. The sonar contact stayed deep. It circled the empty ships for a long time. Sarah watched it on the screen as the bell rose toward the surface, circling 3 ships that had nothing left in them. Nothing new, nothing it wanted, just empty steel at 3,200 feet, and the permanent dark of the deep Atlantic and 81 years of keeping something that was not there anymore. Then it stopped circling, and it went deeper, down past the chef, Ips, down past 3,200 feet, down into the part of the ocean that has no name and no bottom that anyone has ever mapped, down to wherever it had come from before November 14th, 1943, and the 3 ships that had crossed its path. The sonar lost it at 6,000 feet. Sarah watched the screen until there was nothing left to watch. Then she looked up. The bell broke the surface at 15:47 hours on a clear November afternoon in the North Atlantic. The surface vessels were all around them. Divers in the water, Navy personnel leaning over the rails, and coming up through the surface, all around the bell, breaking through into the cold November air, for the first time in 81 years, 261 men. Sarah came out of the bell onto the deck of the survey vessel and looked at them, being helped over the rails, standing on the decks of Navy vessels blinking in the November light. Some sitting, some standing with their faces up toward the sky the way people look at the sky when they have not seen it for a very long time. Garrett's voice in her earpiece. Dr. Voss, we have a count. 261. All of them. Every single one. Sarah looked at the water. She found the young man on the deck of the nearest Navy vessel. He was standing at the rail looking at the ocean, not at the sky. At the ocean. At the surface of the water above, 3,200 feet, of dark and cold, and the 3 empty ships sitting in formation on the bottom. She crossed to him. He turned when she reached him, those old eyes in that young face, but different now. Something had gone out of them, or something had come into them. The deep water stillness was still there, but underneath it now was something that had not been there in the passageway of the Harmon, something that looked like a man who had just remembered what it felt like to be in the world. He, okayed at her for a long moment. Thank you, he said. His voice was still careful, still choosing each word, but warmer now, the warmth of someone who has come back from somewhere very cold. Sarah looked at him, at the November sky above them, at the November sky above them, at the North Atlantic around them, at 260 men on the decks of Navy vessels learning what November felt like again. She thought about Garrett's files, about 80 years of watching from the surface, about the families who had gathered every year with nothing to put in the space where answers should have been. She thought about a hand pressed against a bridge window at 3,200 feet. She thought about the answer being something new. It was always something new, she said. The young man looked at her. He almost smiled, small and tired, and real and 81 years in the making. Yes, he said. It always is. The Dead Fleet series ends here. Thank you for listening to The Drifting Dark. The next story is already out there on the water. Subscribe and stay close. We're just getting started.